media in Germany is getting more and more into the right-wing terror narrative. And one thing that happened yesterday, well, at least what the media is reporting, is that in Hanau, I guess it's a city in Western Germany, 11 people were killed, and the headline in the newspaper is 11 people killed in a right-wing terror attack. And I just looked at it briefly, what the main points were, and I was trying to find where they get the right-wing motive from the terror attack. And I couldn't find it, because according to what is written now in the newspaper, the perpetrator is not identified yet. And yeah, I don't know. There was some kind of video that they found in his room, and it said something about America. You know, about how the American people should wake up to some kind of a pedophile network or something. You know, I don't really understood. There was some weird thing about underground bunkers where Satanists are hiding and the Americans should wake up, and all this stuff, you know, weird stuff. So it just sounded like a crazy guy, you know, like a lunatic, like a guy who ran from an asylum or something, you know. So I was looking for the clues, you know, for the racist and the right-wing motivation. And everything they came up with in the newspaper article was that the majority of people who were killed are of foreign descent, you know. So it's a Migrationshintergrund, migrational background. It's how they express that they are not Germans, you know. So they didn't even talk about citizens or non-citizens. They just talked about that the majority of people were of migrational background. So one issue I have with this here is that in Western Germany, I don't know exactly where Hanau lies. I guess it is in Western Germany. And in many places in Western Germany, people with migrational background are the majority anyways. So any terror attack in the public will almost always kill a majority people of migrational background, you know. So what this sentence tells us is not that a guy who hates foreigners has killed, you know, foreigners, but it actually tells us that the West is already completely overrun by foreigners. And anybody who commits an attack there will inevitably kill mostly foreigners, you know. It's like it's very hard to kill thousands of Germans in a terror attack in Beijing, you know. There are not enough Germans there to do an anti-German terror attack. So that's a weird argument. And then the next thing, what I always criticize about the terror narrative, you know, most of the actual right-wing people that I see, you know, in the media, in the alternative media, or anywhere, they criticize our government, you know, and they criticize the policies of Angela Merkel, of Jens Spahn, of Maas, you know, and all these dudes, you know, all these guys. And traditionally, you know, what is terrorism? Terrorism is a form of warfare that a group applies. A group that is a minority in the state and has no military power. You know, when you don't have a military, but you want to topple the government, or you want to achieve your goals, you know, militarily, you do it with terror attacks. And this is what, for example, the Northern Irish rebels, they did. That's what rebels in, let's say, South Tyrol in Italy they do, or bask people, they lay bombs somewhere. But terror organizations, they always target critical points. You know, they want to blow up a bridge, they want to disrupt the information and transport networks. They want to kill important people. There's also terrorism in the United States, so there was, you know, in the 60s and 70s. You know, many presidents of the United States were killed in terror attacks, like John F. Kennedy. He was killed in an act of terror, and this is an act of warfare. His policies were not in line with the policies that the perpetrators wanted to see happening, you know. So they killed him in a terror attack. Killing random people is not terror, you know, that is lunacy. And what is much more likely, that the terrorist attack is not a right-wing terror attack, but more like an establishment terror attack. You know, for example, the establishment, if they are threatened by the political development, for example, right-wing parties are gaining more and more momentum in Germany, the AfD is gaining more and more momentum, right-wing parties are getting stronger, are getting more and more socially accepted. And in every real terror attack, there is a concrete goal that wants to be achieved. A certain person has to be taken out, or a certain, you know, certain things have to be achieved. And what is achieved by this terror attack that has happened now is that there's blame. The blame is put immediately on right-wing people, on you know, people who don't want to see their country flooded with migrants, you know, who want to keep their own traditions and their own, you know, heritage, and who want to stay in control of their own government. And the terror is blamed on, you know, right-wing people. You know, there's not much background. It's not even very clear that this was a right-wing attack, but the blame is already all over the media. It's like a right-wing terror attack. And usually people in Germany who go to work every day, they don't have time to dig into all the media hoaxes or all the media you know, fuzz. They don't have the time to look into all of the news that are brought and to see what's about. You know, most people just, you know, fly over the news and see, okay, right-wing terror attack, that's it, you know. So it sips into the subconscious mind of many people that more and more right-wing terror attacks are happening, you know. A similar thing was a couple of months ago when there was a supposed anti-Semitic attack in my hometown of Halle, and where the only victims were 2 Germans, and no Jew was harmed. You know, not even the property of the Jews was harmed in any significant way. And you know, it's like, where is that an anti-Semitic terror attack? And who German national anti-Semitic hater would, instead of killing Jews, like if his goal was to enter the synagogue and kill Jews, when he didn't achieve his goal, why would he then instead kill Germans? You know, it just makes no sense. And the same now, you know, if there was really a right-wing terror, why does it never target any real thing? You know, why don't they blow up the broadcasting tower, you know, to stop the media from spreading their bullshit? You know, why don't they, you know, take a country like North Korea, where they have labor camps, you know, penal camps, and they have like a death sentence, and they have all this military police and secret police and harsh treatments of any dissidents. In Germany, dissidents are suppressed, that's true, but they are not treated like extremely harshly, you know. And the politicians are not guarded so perfectly, you know. And like anybody who wanted to actually disrupt the government and to topple the government could easily do it, you know. Anybody could kill a politician in Germany. So if there was right-wing terrorism, then they would not kill random people in a bar. That's just total nonsense. And yeah, you can also see in the media, they haven't even figured it all out. You know, a couple of hours after the event happened, they have not even figured out all the details, and it's already a right-wing terror attack. And this tells you everything about it. This tells you that this is most probably a faked event, you know, like the guy who did it is already dead, you know, whatever he said on the internet or whatever he wrote down, you know, this could all be faked easily, and there's no real evidence that he actually is a right-wing hater or whatever. Yeah, it's just getting more and more ridiculous in this country. Recently there was another news article where they said that they reprehended and they put a couple of people into jail who supposedly wrote on the internet you know, right-wing terror stuff. You know, they wanted to topple the government, and they discussed the hatred for the government online, you know, and then they were, you know, invaded by the police and taken to prison. And when they wanted to show the posts, whatever, the Twitter posts or whatever, the hateful posts that they used to justify the legal action, then it was like some completely ridiculous stuff, like, you know, like a guy writing the BRD, our state is such a joke, and, you know, I hope people wake up to this stupid mess, and I hope that all these leftists who are the real violent people, you know, who are just bullies, violent bullies, I hope that the people wake up to the violence of the left, you know, something like that, you know, something completely soft, you know, like where is that some kind of right-wing conspiracy trying to topple the government, you know? So it's getting more and more ridiculous in our media, and, you know, in the blaming of so-called right-wing movements. And for people who grew up in Eastern Germany, yeah, and so-called Eastern Germany, which is actually Middle Germany, like in the socialist Germany, one reason why the AfD and the right-wing parties are so predominant in the East and the former socialist Germany is because these are exactly the same narratives that were put out by the dying socialist government of Eastern Germany before the collapse, you know. So they just came up with these ridiculous narratives, trying to ridicule the opposition, you know, and all this media stuff. For me it looks more like a desperate attempt of the government that is in place right now to you know, to keep their power. But there are so many factors. There's such a ridiculous amount of factors that that lead to the destruction of the current government, and it's all self-made, you know, like the government itself has created the situation in which it basically becomes obsolete, you know. I usually talk to many people, you know, in the streets and wherever I go to the police people and, you know, start to chat with them, and you get this impression everywhere in this country that the whole administrative system is just collapsing, you know, it's just not working anymore. People who work in the city council, they tell you, yeah, we're all over 50 there, and we have such difficulties to get new personnel, like nobody is able to work there, and once a person gets you know, into pension, you know, and retires, we don't know how to replace the person, you know. We don't have the personnel to run. They don't have the personnel to run the country, basically. And in a situation like that, they are increasing the workload of the administration every day by importing all these migrants, by creating artificial problems that you wouldn't have had before, you know. And then again, when they create artificial problems, you know, like, can you wear a hijab in the government and all this stuff, or in school? How do you educate 50 different nationalities in the same school? I mean, what kind of ridiculous self-created problem is that, you know? Oh, we now have people from 50 different nationalities in one school. Okay, how do we educate all them at the same time with just one teacher? That's a ridiculous problem of their own making. And when they try to solve these problems, they use the resources that are there for the real problems, and then the real problems are not solved anymore, and they pile up, and it creates a downward spiral in which the government will inevitably go down, and the whole state will inevitably dissolve itself in chaos. It is absolutely inevitable. So any intelligent right-wing person, you know, would just let it go down. Why would you risk your skin in a ridiculous terror attack if you can just wait and enjoy the show and see the state go down, you know, and then reorganize yourself and your people, and you know, because this is what you have to do anyways. When the administrative system collapses, then the Arabs who are here will organize themselves, of course, under their own laws. And other people who are part of other ethnicities and other religions, they will organize themselves under their own laws, and they will have to find some kind of agreement with the other groups, and that's it. That's just the necessity of, you know, of the result of what is happening now, you know? So the whole narrative, you know, of the right-wing terror, it's just so tiresome, you know. It's boring. It's so boring. And I feel for the victims, but I think it is an injustice to both the victims and to the people who are blamed, like the right-wing people, like basically everybody who is not in accordance with the government, to blame it all on the right-wing people, like to instrumentalize, to utilize the sadness of the event already again, to blame other political groups, to blame the political opposition, you know. It's just a great tragedy for everybody involved, and it's another crime of the government, another crime of the media, and it's another thing that the government that is going down right now will be held accountable for when they go down. And you can bet that Angela Merkel has her ticket to Chile, or, you know, to some exile already in her closet, you know. She's not gonna stay here when things get hairy. So yeah, that's it. That's my commentary for this event, and I feel sorry for all the sadness that was created and all the people who lost their relatives, and I hope it doesn't occur again, and when it occurs again, I hope that it is dealt with in a dignifying way, and not in this kind of blatant, blunt political instrumentalization.